to where you can dive in deeper with yourself internally. So, first of all, I want to start off by saying that I studied Spanish in college, and whenever I was in that, I learned about their subjunctive tense. I think that's what it is. Or reflexive. I forget what it's called, but either which way, whenever people that are Spanish or speak Spanish drop something, it's not like they drop it. It is the thing got dropped. The thing fell. Like, there is no blame. The thing did it to itself. And I found that so interesting. And now, really diving in to myself and my own, like, toxic traits and such. Oftentimes, when we're feeling a sensation that's uncomfortable, we externalize it and make it about what someone else did or said or what happened, and we put the blame, put the fault on somebody else, and we really believe that it's their problem then and not ours, when it really is, when the sensation is in us, that is our territory to figure out, and it's nothing external necessarily. It's something that triggered something inside of you that needs to be looked at. So, like, complaining, for example, anytime we're complaining about something, there's a few things that are going on. First of all, it's a judgment of sorts. Like, when we're complaining about something, we're expecting it to be different than what it is, right? And normally there's a sensation going on that's not pleasant, like we're agitated or frustrated with the way things are. We're frustrated and there's resistance to the present moment for some reason. And usually when you go in there, you can not pick it apart, but you can go in deeper and figure out what it is that's driving that. I don't know if that made any sense, but so back to fault for a minute. Like, I personally do not believe in fault and blaming. Yet in my life, especially with my family, right? Like, let's say one of the kids leaves a water bottle on the counter, and I get frustrated because I don't want to be picking up the trash, right? And so it's easy to say, oh, it's his fault because he did it, right? But there's fault, like, I think fault kind of implies that they meant to do it, they're doing it to make you mad, they're doing it for some reason, that you took personal. I think that's where the fault comes in. And then there is accountability, though. So, like, it's not his fault, but to hold him accountable. And that's a fine line there. But whenever we get into fault, like, really, if he left his water bottle there, like, perhaps the behavior of not cleaning up after yourself or putting your trash down wherever you see it instead of a trash can, it's like, is it really his fault, or could it be my fault because I haven't taught him better? Or is it my fault because sometimes I leave my trash around and we actually model behaviors for our kids, right? And then if you get to that, saying it's my fault because I haven't done whatever it is that needs to be done to make it so that this is how he behaves, right? We could go back to, let's say, my parents, who sometimes probably left stuff out, since we're all humans and we all make mistakes. But it doesn't stop there, because then we could go to their parents, and then their parents, and then their parents. So it's like there's never-ending loop of blame whenever you want to fault somebody for it. And fault in itself, the word, like something that's faulty, means it doesn't work, right? It's broken. There's something wrong with it, right? So implying that there's something wrong with him for doing this behavior is just not productive. So this shift from blame and fault to holding people accountable, holding yourself accountable, being accountable. And to me, accountability means the ability to account for something. So the ability to remember what happened, what you did, the ability to address what you did and take ownership of it. But it's different than fault, because fault and blame is it's very close to shame. It creates shame, because you're saying basically you're broken because you did this thing. And really, it's just a mistake that another human made because they didn't have the tools to do it differently. Maybe it is that they haven't been held accountable before, But pointing it out from a place of neutrality and love, rather than neediness and fault and brokenness. So let's say, you're walking down the street and somebody bumps into you and says something really nasty to you. And you want to complain about them and blame them, and it was their fault that they bumped into you. And the issue with that, it is kind of messed up, right? If they bumped into you and then they are talking whatever madness at you, that's an icky situation, where you weren't at fault. You were just walking down the road and then that happened. The issue with, bringing that anger in and taking what they say and letting it upset you means that you are now even more upset than you would have been if they just knocked into you and maybe said sorry, But really, you can be really angry at them, be like, what is wrong with them that they would do this? And they're such a crappy person for doing this. But it's taking away from the energy that you could be using to go inside of you and say, hey, I'm feeling this way because this person just ran into me and then had some not so pleasant words to say about me. And really digging into what you're feeling and why you're feeling that way. Are you believing that what they said is true? Or are you reassuring yourself that even though this happened, I get to take up space, and whatever they say about me isn't true? And you can kind of you're healing yourself in that rather than putting it externally. when we blame and fault and complain, we're sending our energy out and letting somebody else have control of our energy, because we basically need them to act a certain way for us to feel okay. And this isn't to say, like, not to speak up and not to hold people accountable. Maybe when the person bumped you in the road, you tell them, hey, I deserve to take up space as well, you know, like, so in the past, what I would do if something like that happened, you know, some interaction that wasn't pleasant, I would kind of just quiet myself, and I would be in these loops of like, how could they do this? Like, why would they do this? And that was giving all of my power away to them, instead of realizing that the fact that I'm trying to blame or fault or complain about something is actually a judgment situation where I'm making myself better than them. Which, I mean, looking at it from just that angle, yeah, if somebody knocked into me, whatever, but like, the truth is we don't know what's going on with them. Maybe they're on the phone and they just found out that their sister passed away or something, you know? You never know why somebody may snap. The choice you get, though, is whether you dwell in it and complain about it and try and make it something different than what it is, or you can accept that what happened and then accept the sensations that are going on inside of you, and then use that as an opportunity to really dive in and figure out what's going on. Like, why do I feel like things need to be this way? Like, would it be the end of the world if they weren't? You know? And then from that place, speaking up and holding accountable to what needs to be held accountable, it's coming from a neutral place. Like, I felt this way when this happened, you know? And it's not like you made me feel this way when you did that. Like, this thing that happens makes me feel this way. And I mean, you can point out certain behaviors or whatever that are, but coming from it from a place of neutrality instead of the blame is like an attack. Like, you're trying to protect yourself by attacking and making the other person lower. And the same with fault. Like, they must be broken is essentially the meaning there. And especially whenever I'm thinking about my kids, like, I know I need to hold them accountable and they need to have like boundaries and all of this, but to make something their fault, like, I don't want them to think that they're faulty, that they're broken, you know? So for me, whenever I feel myself feeling resentment or complaining or blaming someone for something that's got me feeling a certain way, it's like a light bulb that goes off, and it's like, hey, you know, take a breath and pull my energy back to me and really just dive in and figure out if what I'm actually complaining about even matters, or if it's just some crazy rule that I've been abiding by because it was said once 20 years ago, you know? Because a lot of the things that we complain about, like, they could just, like, it doesn't really affect you, you know? And spending that energy externally, it's really like, it doesn't do anything. It's not going to what will change what's happening is sinking into yourself and figuring out what is at the root of the complaint. And then from that place, you're able to express the need for change or growth in a more connective way, instead of it being out of like complaint, lack of okayness, you know? So you can use that whenever you find yourself complaining or blaming somebody else for something that's going on inside of your body. Like, take a moment and like look into it. Meditate on that and figure out what that need is that's really underlying the complaint. Oftentimes it's safety. Giving yourself safety is a good thing. Yeah. So, complaining, blaming, and fault are some like little light bulb moments you can have that give you an opportunity to go in and sit with your inner child who, you know, wherever along the way you learned that whatever it is like absolutely not okay. You know, you can sit with her because she probably got in trouble where he, you know, they probably got punished for doing whatever it is. Like, I know for me, if I left my trash out at my house growing up, it would have been a lot of trouble I would have been in. And so that's why I get triggered whenever I see it. And it's also kind of a pain in the butt to have to pick up after people. So I understand now why they punished me, but at the same time, it's like, what if I said, hey, I need help cleaning up? Like, or hey, there's this bottle over here. Can you help me put it in the trash or something like that? I hope this helps.